Hi, how's it going? My name is Charles Petrik. I am a senior student this year at the University of Oregon. I am one of two recipients of the Humanities undergraduate research fellowships this year, thanks to the Center for Undergraduate Research and Engagement. I'm really excited to have been able to conduct this research over the summer, mainly in a virtual capacity, but with a lot of changes happening in our research project, the award allowed me to free up time, free up space, to continue consolidating our findings that we've compiled over the last 2 years. But then on top of that, move forward with a new team of undergraduate researchers, which is going to be really critical going forward as this work continues long term. So, how did I get involved? The work that I'm doing is examining socio-territorial movements in the United States, specifically agrarian movements that act in a territorial way or deal with spatial themes. This is a comparative study that is a part of subsidiary kind of project of Data Luta in Brazil. And we, the University of Oregon, are directly working with the Universidade Estadual Paulista in Sao Paulo, and there, we're working with their team of researchers and Data Luta researchers who have helped us start a methodology in the United States. We're the only team in the United States that's conducting this work, and thus compare it to, I believe now, 11 other teams, so 12 total around the world. That include, believe Cuba is a newer group, Costa Rica, Brazil, Canada, UK, the list goes on. So it's really exciting work in a comparative perspective. I'm really excited about our methods and what we've created over the last 2 years and to be a part of that genesis of our methods, and now to be able to pass that along to other students. So I got involved with this work originally, working with Dr. David Meek, who works with anthropology and global studies here at the University of Oregon. He is someone that I really looked up to in his work on agrarian movements in Brazil, and social movements around the world. So I reached out to him, attended his office hours, and really got involved from there. And he, mentioned that there's this research project, and I enthusiastically jumped in. So I'm going to switch a little bit to a presentation. One of my colleagues, Fred, who was a visiting scholar at U of O last year, created this presentation, and really helped me this was a presentation that was given at Queen Mary College, University of London, this year as a part of a larger conference on territorial research. As you can see, it's Data Luta. So all credit goes to Fred with this. But I like the way that he set it up and I liked how it was fun. So this kind of gives an outline of what the research is, some of what we came up with last year, which will then give me a chance to explain what I did this summer. So yeah, as we get into it here, I kind of explained this about what the project is. Ultimately, we are examining movements that deal with agrarian themes in the United States. Now, other groups are dealing with rural or agrarian and urban spaces. We have not expanded yet to an urban space. We're solely concentrating on how we've organized our methodology around agrarian spaces in the United States. So, food production, farm production, land rights, things like that. So, that's been what we've been working on. There's a lot of room to grow with this. To further define what a socio-territorial movement is, this is coming from Dr. Bernardo Fernandez, who started this and who's been working with us over the last 2 years. The quote is, socio-territorial movements construct political spaces in order to reach their objectives. They spatialize and promote another type of territory, such that the large majority of socio-territorial movements are formed through the processes of territorialization and deterritorialization. So this is a process in which, in our context, we're investigating groups that are social movements, so movements that, are usually not for profit, that are developed and led with the aims to either address spatial themes or use spatial methods to achieve their aims that are also in relation to territory. So that's kind of what we've been looking at. And this obviously is very, very different across cultures, across space, across time, thus bringing the comparative aspect where we can, are using similar methods through a jot form methodology, which we'll get to in a sec, but are using similar methods to define different spaces and thus compare those, and ultimately connect them to the Sustainable Development Goals. So there's another kind of fun fact about this. So this was the preliminary findings of our research through 2023. Right now, over the summer, with the funds that Cure was able to provide me, and in the award, I was able to use this data that I had been working on over the past year which will eventually become a publication, hopefully, to onboard a new team to our methods, condense our methods so that they're explainable and understandable and can be reproduced, and which we had worked on over the last years. It was kind of an iterative process within our team, and thus, continue with the data collection for 2024 to produce similar themes. So we're not quite done with 2024 yet, but this is a great way to look at that. So this is the data loaded method. We're using a jot form methodology, which is used across all teams. Usually in this action data slide, I know it's not very visible. We're looking at territorial movements that have, a main action. So we're looking at actions that, in this it's a little jargony because it's, we're looking for actions like organizing, um, solidarity, um, uh, contra actions. It's very ways in which you can define how movements are interacting with an institution or for the purposes of receiving or achieving some goal that's spatially oriented. So we start with the main action to define it. We then get down to the derivative action, which adds a little personality to the movement, what they are, looking to achieve, or what specific methods they're using within that larger action, and then going to the demands and the purpose of the actions. So that's just one page of a larger jot form that, seeks to define what a movement is, what its actions are, who they're working, in relation to, whether that's the US government or another movement, where they're doing it, how many people are doing it, and then specifically, moving forward and relating that to the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's a longer process, and what we're inputting into this form are articles. So information data gleaned from articles that we're receiving through a keyword basis through Google Alerts. So we kind of snowballed some different keywords with articles, and then also in our first uh, period in 2023, and thus revise those in 2024, early in 2024, to gain new articles, like expand our reach of articles in the agrarian space. So we have keywords such as farm bill or keywords such as, land back, which have been really interesting to work with because coming from Brazil, of methodology from Brazil, there's not always words do not directly translate. So we use a lot of words that they had in their context to begin with. So it was a really interesting intercultural experience to go through and explain, how different words can be associated to a different meaning of space. And thus now my job over the summer was to help explain that to our new undergraduates that we're helping onboard and continue that data collection over the summer. So um, kind of skip through this here. This was Fred's experience in the United States. Again, mentioning Dr. David Meek, who's been really critical in this process and organizing us and relating the project to our partners in Brazil, which has been fantastic. These are our results. So this is what we'll look to come up with next year in 2024. These are our results from 2023. Here, kind of outlines all the different aspects of our job form methodology. Looking at the type of institution, looking at the demand, the type of movement, where it's at. And that comes up with some results like this, that, raw data that can then be used to, I'm a geography major, hopefully mapping it in the future, but also looking at, great graphs that are very easily, understandable, especially across cultures. So, we're looking at most of them are taking place action scale, our main actions, whether it's political activism, it's a judicial action, it's an educational action, whether it's providing assistance. So this is a really iterative process that we've gone through that then comes up with really hard data like this as we filter through thousands of articles. I myself have gone through about 2,500 articles, or at least filtered through them to gain, less than 150 data points. And each data point is an entry. So these are our relation to the Sustainable Development Goals. We see that, reduction of inequalities. There's a lot of Venn diagram overlap there. But it's really interesting to see how that relates at a larger scale. And then, of course, we want to relate it spatially. So looking at the South, the Midwest, the Northeast, we can see what actions are taking place per state, regionally, which actions are taking place, and ultimately coming up with some leading questions. How do we move forward with the relationship that movements establish with institutions comparatively, right? Not only between Brazil and the United States, but also between, countries elsewhere that are working with the same methodology. What conditions are fostering the emergence and engagement of socio-territorial movements in the United States today? How do we address we're looking at maybe errors in our methodology, what's not addressed, what's not coming through in articles. How are our keywords finding, everything that's within the agrarian sphere, if that's even a thing in the United States. So it is a really complicated and interesting set of ideals and methods that's been difficult to explain. And so being able to reproduce our methods was something that I and others worked on this year, so that we can continue this research long term, which is really important here. Fred had a little fun with this. So yeah, I'll jump back. Um, so that was my main work over the summer. Ultimately, we got to a point where we now have two new undergraduate researchers working, a graduate student and I, so four students at the University of Oregon that are working on this project, inputting data through 2024, hopefully leading to something that can be presented at a larger scale, continuing at conferences, but also at the symposium. Um, Looking going forward, we're looking at publishing a paper. Goal also, we're going to see a lot of difference this year in an election year. So not only comparing our data to other countries, but also comparing our data from this year to next year, because the institutions of the government are changing so much, right? Or can change so much. And so that's something that we're really excited to see and something we're anticipating. And so this is a great time that Cure stepped in to provide me the resources to go forth and onboard new folks to continue this research, but also allow me to, you know, turn this really abstract kind of geographic concept that is turned into research into something that is very reproducible and understandable, so that we can move forward with the intention to continue comparing our research across boundaries. So, yeah, looking forward to continuing this, and thank you once again to Kira for providing me the opportunity to do so over the summer, and I look forward to presenting at the symposium. Thanks so much.